YouTube, what is going on? We have a video today going over all loadouts that you could possibly want to have to take on the contest mode Vesper's host dungeon this weekend. Now, the reason we're going over this video is people want to know what builds I'm going to be running when I play Hunter, and they want to know what to run on Titans and Warlocks as well, especially since we're going to be doing carries over on my Twitch, because we'll be live all weekend doing carries. We'll be doing the race on Tuesday to grab your emblems for Twitch Rivals race. You'll be able to watch, grab some emblems. So make sure you head over to my Twitch, follow there, and we'll be doing helps all weekend. So if you don't know what to run, this video will help you out a lot. We're going to start off with the Hunter. These are all the loadouts I'm going to be taking in on my Hunter. The first one we start off with is literally just a transition build. It's literally got my Eager Edge sword saved to it. It's got Stompies on, Strand on, double grapples, and this is the subclass setup. The first loadout I set up for myself is, let's just say this dungeon is really difficult, and they throw one out of left field, and it's crazy difficult to stay alive. I've got a void build for Omnioculus. This helps me stay alive in ad clear encounters if things get a little bit more difficult, and it also can be swapped over to a damage loadout really easily as well if I'm running tether for DPS and having a debuff. Which leads us into our next build actually, which is the damage loadout for Orpheus Rigs, which is set to Prismatic, and the reason it's set to Prismatic is because we have a tether build for Prismatic as well, which I'm going to go over here later, and that's how that works. I set it up so it's basically on Void and Prismatic. Moving back to Omnioculus real fast, this is the subclass setup. If you want to take a screenshot of that, here you go. If you want to just like pause it and set your class up, you can that way as well. Here's the mod setup. Now the mod setup is going to look pretty familiar across all the builds other than this one. This one has firepower on it, has bolster detonation on it. We don't really run those on the rest of the builds. There you go. That's the subclass setup there. Moving on to the next loadout, we have the good old Prismatic build with a class item on it for Spirit of Inmost Light and Spirit of the Liar, which is Liar's Handshake. Now, if you don't have any class items you want to play Hunter, you can just run normal Liar's Handshake for this build. I don't see me using it, but I wanted to have it just in case. Here's the subclass setup. Combination Blow obviously is a must. You can run Gunpowder Gamble. You don't have to run Gunpowder Gamble, but you can. You can also swap Gunpowder Gamble out for Winter Shroud or Threaded Spectre. Take your pick. Mod setup, same with this one. We got hands on because obviously we're punching a lot. Heavy-handed because we're punching a lot. Everything else is pretty much the same. Scabs, double power, full attraction, special finis. Okay, I'll go over the mods at the end for every loadout. Well, not for every loadout, just basically how we set mods up for certain things, just to explain a little bit more, because pretty much everything's kind of the same across a lot of builds now, especially because build crafting is really simplified. The next loadout we have is one of my personal favorites. This is what I will be launching in on the dungeon on. It is another Prismatic loadout. It is with a class item. This class item can change. You don't have to have the specific one. This is just the best one, in my opinion. Shout out, darling. Spirit of Inmost Light and Spirit of Cyrtarachne. Yes, I 100% said that right. If I didn't, let me know in the comments, but you know, I'm British. Leave me be. This gives you Woven Mail on grenades. Throwing your grenade, using your grapple, throwing Gunpowder Gamble. It's really good. Okay? Here's the subclass setup. This is the subclass setup. We are running the grapple. I like my grapple for mobility. We've got Withering Blade. Really good during the stasis season. If it's an ad clearing encounter, we are not going to run tether. Yeah, we are going to run Silence and Squall. Now, the reason for Silence and Squall is it's really good ad clear. It builds into the artifact this season really well. It gives us Frost Armor from Purpose on the fragment here, which builds into the artifact even more. We're running Facet of Ruin so that Shatters get more damage, and Solar Ignitions are even better from the Gunpowder Gamble. So that's the setup there. You can change this out for things like Spirit of Synthoceps and Hoyle. You can swap it out for Hoyle and Verity if you'd like to. Really good options. I just think Cyrtarachne is the best one. And now we can focus. I got this first try today. Mod setup is right here. As you can see, pretty much the same as the other ones. They don't really change very much. Last ad clearing build is we have Gyrfalcons. This could be set up on Prismatic with a class item or with Gyrfalcons itself, which I do have. I just think this is better actually on the Void subclass. I think the play loop's a lot easier. Here's the setup. Obviously being able to dodge to start your invis play loop and just keep going from there and ad clearing. This is straight up an ad clear build unless you're on tether for damage, and then you can swap to Orpheus Rigs for damage on Void as well if you'd like to. But honestly, I think if you're going to run tether, you probably play Prismatic in my opinion anyway. Prismatic has power crept a lot of things out of this game, to be honest. The only reason we run Void is if things are a little bit more difficult to stay alive, and you can like Crutch Devour from Void, etc. First thing we also set setup up here is an Aeon's build. I set this up on a prismatic to match my other subclasses so that I can easily just go, if someone says, oh, can you make heavy? Yeah, I can. Swap it there. And my stats are pretty much the same. Things are the same, subclasses are the same. Easy done. If I'm on Void, I can easily just swap it to Void and it works on Void as well. So that covers Aeons. You can make heavy ammo really easily as well. So moving over to damage loadouts, like I said, we had Orpheus Rigs. Orpheus Rigs, if we're in Tether, as you can see, everything stays the same. We're leaving this the same. This is pointless being here, but we leave it the same. You could change these up a little bit if you really wanted, but we'll leave them the same. So it's really easy to swap loadouts mid-dungeon run. It keeps it really easy. And the only thing that changes on the damage loadout is we try and have an high intellect just to help with super regen, and obviously the 100 resil. And then the only thing that's different is your boots. Look, we have surges on and a time dilation. Literally the only thing that changes. Pretty simple. As for the other damage loadout is obviously, let's be honest, chat, is Celestial Nighthawk. Now I did take a nerf, Celestial Nighthawk, and Golden Gun took a 5% nerf in this patch, but let's be honest, it's still the best. It's still the best. 3 solar surges on and time dilation again, as you can see with the what's it called, and the setup stays the same as your others because you don't want to lose your super. The only thing I changed is I swapped to a snare bomb in it, and the reason I swapped to a snare bomb in it is because ideally you want to go into damage with prismatic with transcendence, pop transcendence, and then you get a smoke bomb and it's an extra debuff later on during the damage phase while you've got transcendence active. So that covers Hunter. Now we're gonna move over to Warlock, and we're gonna go over everything that you could possibly need on a Warlock. As we did on the Hunter, we're gonna start with the same loadout on the Warlock. We have a transition loadout, as you can see, Starfire Protocol for double fusion grenades with heat rises and Icarus dash. Really easily movement, so you can transition through things a lot easier. Any jump puzzles, if there is one, which makes it a lot easier. All right, first loadout. Let's be honest, probably one of the best loadouts on Warlock right now as well. Even if you don't, you don't have as much fun with it as you do as other things. Getaway Artist is by far one of the best Warlock builds for crowd control and ad clear, and it's just really solid. So prismatic, here's the setup. This needs to change. I like to put Facet of Dawn on for Radiant, and there's your setup. For mods, there you go. As you can see, they're pretty much sticking the same as they did on the Hunter. Look, they're literally hardly much changing. Pretty standard across all builds, like I said. Moving on to solar builds for the Warlock. Now, the first one you're always going to want to keep your solar loadouts the exact same subclass setup wise. Speaker's Sight is the first one. This is the setup here. You're going to want Hellion and Touch of Flame. Healing nades. You can either do Healing Rift or Phoenix Dive. I like to use Phoenix Dive. And then this is the setup. Well of Radiance for damage generally. If you need to like stand and do damage, you can make that decision based on when you're in the dungeon, or you can run Song of Flame, obviously. Both still solid options. Now, we keep these the same because you can then swap to a Cenotaph loadout if you need to for making heavy. Stays the same. Just swap the super to whatever you need it to be at and resave the loadout. So these are both the same. Obviously, rate my Scuba Steve drip out of 10. If any answers below a 10, you're just wrong. Okay, as you can see on these, they are pretty much the same look across all loadouts. Mods are pretty much the same. Here's the Cenotaph one. As you can see, it's the same setup. Make sure these are all in order as well, so you don't lose your super. I should have mentioned that in other builds, but as you can see, mods stay pretty much the same. Damage loadouts for these, we do have multiple. So we have a Cenotaph one if you're using Microcosm. We have Speaker's Sight if you need to just keep Speaker's Sight on, and then doesn't get used as much nowadays, but Lunafaction is just for range and reload. Now, what keeps changes on here is time dilation again, 3 surges. Same across this. Look, you got 3 surges. Look, I do have an Aeon's build set up. I like to always have one just for finishers. Warlocks generally don't need it as much anymore, but because of Cenotaph, but I like to have one just in case, right? It's just sat there in case we need it, right? If you don't need to use Well of Radiance, or you don't need to use Song of Flame, and you can run a damage loadout, we have a neutral game build here on Warlock that I like to use if I'm using a damage super such as Nova Bomb or Needle Storm. Now, it does require a class item with Heart of Inmost Light. I do want a Heart of Inmost Light and Star Eaters. That way you're running Heart of Inmost Light for your neutral game, clearing ads, whatever, on a lead up to damage. And then you have Star Eaters charging up, ready for doing damage. So you've got that sort of combo going pretty well, so you can do decent damage. Here's the setup for the class. It's very simple. Hellion Devour. Hellion goes hard. Devour keeps you alive. Healing Need keeps you alive. Arcane Needles. Charge your Darkness Engine. And then obviously a Needle Storm or Nova Bomb for the damage super. So that pretty much covers Warlock's loadouts. Obviously, we've got a damage loadout here. 3 surges, and then I don't have a Star Eaters class item yet, but maybe I'll get one now that we can focus them, so that covers Warlock. Okay, Titans, like we did with the other 2 classes. Transition loadout, jump puzzles, sword on, lion rampants, catapult lift, easy mode, right? So transition loadout as always. First and foremost, if you're not running this, you pretty much toss in. If you have this class item, Inmost Light and Spirit of Synthos, it's busted. Like, it's really busted, okay? Like, I'm so surprised this didn't get nerfed with the rest of the stuff that got nerfed. It's insane. If you don't have this class item, just run Synthoceps. Here's the class setup. If you wanted to use a damage super, swap it to Twilight Arsenal. There you go. Pretty much it, okay? Here's the mods. Double heavy-handed, hands-on. Everything else pretty much the same. I would change this, though, Outreach, because you don't really need it. I'd put Special Finisher on, as it's a dungeon and you want to be able to create special for your teammates. Obviously, damage loadout, it's got Twilight Arsenal on it as the other classes. Same setup, just Twilight Arsenal as your damage super. And obviously, you've got, as you can see, 3 surges, time dilation. Now, if you are not comfortable on Prismatic Titan and you do not want to run Prismatic Titan, or its survivability is a lot more difficult and you want something a little bit easier to run, go on to the backup, which is Solar Titan with Synthoceps. Class setup keeps you alive. If you need a damage super, you can run Burning Maul. If it's just ad clear and you want to use this for ad clear, you can swap it to Hammer of Sol. But obviously, Burning Maul for the damage super. And then obviously into a damage loadout, we have the same subclass setup with Burning Maul, but we have Pyrogales on for that one-shot super. 3 surges, and you're going to want a time dilation on here as well. If you're struggling really hard to stay alive on Synthoceps, which you shouldn't, which if you really are, people have been saying to me to use this. I will never advocate for this, but I put it together just for you guys. You've got the Lowly Splendor Helm. You can use Lowly Splendor Helm instead of Synthoceps. Now, last but not least is Strand Titan. Let me guess. Run Synthoceps, okay? Here's the class setup. Banner of War aspect. I think that's all I need to say, okay? Here's mod setup, as you can see. And then damage loadout. Synthoceps, surges, time dilation. Class setup mirroring is the same. Banner of War aspect. So that covers the Titan. Right, I hope you found this video helpful, guys. As I said at the beginning of the video, we will be live on Twitch on Friday for the race, part of the Twitch Rivals race, so you can claim your emblems by watching the stream for a little bit. So make sure you come and tab up over there. I'd really appreciate it. Hit that follow button. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it. We're going to have a lot more videos coming out over the course of the next week for you with the guide. Hope you found this helpful. Let me know what you're taking in on the weekend into the dungeon class-wise, what you're going to be using, that sort of things down in the comments. If you want to try and get yourself some help, we will be doing contest carries all weekend long, so make sure you come over and try and get yourself a run in with myself. Good luck this weekend. Have fun. First and foremost, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you.